Okay, let's just dive straight into this explainer. We're looking at what I honestly think is the most fascinating invisible factory in history. I mean, we're exploring an institution that didn't just manufacture products, it literally manufactured the future we live in today.
So, how did one single telephone monopoly invent the modern digital world? It's a massive question for sure. But to find the answer, we have to look back at an American institution that basically engineered our current technological reality. Yep, I'm talking about the legendary Bell Laboratories.
I absolutely love this quote from the science fiction visionary Arthur C. Clarke. He called Bell Labs a factory for ideas, and so its production lines are invisible. That perfectly captures the whole mystique of the place, doesn't it? It was this incredible setting where raw thought, complex math, and just sheer human curiosity were literally manufactured into revolutionary tech. Now, as John Gertner points out in his fantastic book, The Idea Factory, the wildly driven researchers at Bell Labs had one initial, almost unimaginably huge goal: connecting the entire globe. They envisioned a system where literally anyone could talk to anyone else anywhere at any time. And that brings us to this concept of wicked problems. These are those complex, just seemingly impossible challenges that require massive coordinated innovation to actually solve. The Bell System's drive for a universal telephone network wasn't just some standard business goal. No, it was the ultimate wicked problem that forced thousands of scientists to basically invent the foundational building blocks of our future. Section 1. Pioneering the Digital Age. Let's dig right into the science and see how this incredible problem-solving engine actually operated day to day. What's truly wild to me is the sheer serendipity of the work they were doing. Get this, back in 1933, a Bell Labs researcher named Carl Jansky was just trying to fix the problem of shortwave radio static. He built a custom antenna in Holmdel, New Jersey to track down this annoying hiss. And well, in trying to fix phone static, he accidentally discovered the center of the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, he basically birthed the entire scientific field of radio astronomy while just trying to make a phone call a little clearer. Crazy, right? And that brings us to Claude Shannon and the bit, which is the fundamental unit of digital information. Shannon first laid this all out in his pivotal 1948 paper, A Mathematical Theory of Communication. Before this, communication was all analog and super messy. But Shannon's information theory, it's the literal benchmark for everything digital we use today. It just proves that a single corporate lab was laying the absolute bedrock of modern computing and internet architecture. To house all this compounding genius, they needed a special kind of space. So they built this massive, meticulously designed facility in Holmdel, New Jersey. The famous architect Eero Saarinen designed it with windowless interior laboratories so the space could be completely flexible. But here's the genius part. He purposefully centralized common services, like the library and the restaurants, around this striking center court. The whole building was physically engineered to force brilliant minds to bump into each other and collaborate. And this timeline brilliantly shows just how ridiculously fast they moved. So, 1954, Bell Labs unveils the very first silicon solar cell, and it converts light into electricity at, just 6% efficiency. But wait, 1 year later, they're already running a field trial substituting regular batteries to power rural phones down in Georgia. Then, by 1962, a massive array of 3,600 solar batteries is up there powering a satellite in outer space. They literally took solar power from a lab novelty to the cosmos in under a decade. Section 2. The Telstar Satellite Launch. Now we've reached the absolute climax of Bell Labs' engineering triumph in the high-stakes summer of 1962. 3,600. That is the exact number of sapphire-covered solar cells that were meticulously assembled onto the Telstar satellite. We're talking about a 34.5-inch, 170-pound sphere that was engineered in a completely dust-free, hospital-like environment. Every single component had to be tested under intense vibration just to guarantee it would survive the brutal, shaking trip beyond Earth's atmosphere. So let's walk through the launch of what was basically a flying microwave tower. First, partnering directly with NASA, a Delta rocket lifts off from Cape Canaveral at 3:35 a.m. Second, Telstar separates, hits a 180 revolution per minute spin for stability, and glides right into its elliptical orbit. And finally, the signal acquisition. A massive 380-ton horn antenna in Andover, Maine searches the sky and actually manages to lock onto a signal that was only 1/billionth of a watt strong. And the gamble worked perfectly. U.S. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson beamed live via the Telstar relay, declared it another first in our conquest of space. That historic live phone call was quickly followed by fax transmissions and live TV broadcasts linking the U.S., France, and England. For the first time ever, the world was officially communicating from orbit.
Section 3. Breaking the Bell Monopoly. So, just when it seemed like the Bell system was completely invincible, their absolute market control triggered a massive structural collapse.
In 1982, a U.S. Department of Justice antitrust lawsuit forced AT&T into a consent decree. Basically, the government decided that this amazing innovation engine, which controlled almost all the telephone infrastructure in the U.S., was simply too big to exist as a monopoly anymore. So they were forced to relinquish control of their local operating companies in this historic breakup that took full effect on January 1st, 1984.
The monolithic Bell system was completely fractured. The 1984 divestiture created 7 independent regional companies, which famously became known as the Baby Bells. This included companies like Ameritech, Bell Atlantic, and NYNEX. Just imagine taking the most powerful vertically integrated company in the world and slicing its local territories up into 7 distinct pieces. It was an absolute seismic shift in American business. Now, the financial impact of this was immediate. While local residential service rates actually went up faster than inflation because those old long-distance subsidies dried up, long-distance rates absolutely plummeted. That was thanks to fierce new competition from emerging companies like Sprint and MCI. It radically changed the basic everyday economics of making a phone call for millions of Americans. But ironically, later regulatory changes actually allowed these shattered pieces to slowly merge right back together. In 1996, the Telecom Act allows the Baby Bells to start consolidating. Fast forward to 2000, and Bell Atlantic forms Verizon. In 2005, one of the Baby Bells, SBC, actually swallows up its former parent, AT&T, and just takes its name. And rolling all the way up to 2026, we've got Verizon buying Frontier and AT&T buying Lumen's mass-market fiber. So the fragmented pieces essentially remerged into the modern telecom giants we all rely on today.
Section 4. A Century of Innovation. So, looking back at all of this history, what is the ultimate legacy of this monopolistic idea factory? It's just incredible how profound the mystique of Bell Labs remains even today. Fun fact, in October 2025, an active casting call actually went out seeking 1960s male laboratory reenactors. They're literally filming a documentary right on site in Holmdel, New Jersey, to celebrate what they describe as the hidden engine of the 20th century. Decades later, and filmmakers are still trying to capture that exact 1960s magic on film.
But the real research DNA, it never actually died, it just evolved. Today, Nokia Bell Labs continues the tradition. They're currently researching the absolute frontiers of AI-native networks, optical data center interconnects, and quantum-safe security. The drive to push the ultimate boundaries of global connectivity is still very much alive inside those labs.
A recent retrospective on that famous Holmdel facility summed it up perfectly, saying it always comes back to discovery. Because through all the incredible corporate breakups, the massive antitrust lawsuits, and those chaotic remergers, the core human pursuit at Bell Labs was never just about profits. It was always anchored in a pure, unyielding curiosity to understand our universe and connect the world.
Which leaves us with a final, really provocative question. If a heavily regulated monopoly built our digital foundation and ushered in the whole information age, well, what kind of institution is going to solve the wicked problems of our next century? Looking at today's highly fragmented, wildly fast-paced tech landscape, who out there is building our next invisible factory? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.